is I, Tantus Naraban Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It is time to continue our discussion on the 4th edition of Shadowrun. So today, it's going to be exciting. We're diving into the Awakened world, the world of magic. So let's start talking about it. The Awakened world is permeated by mana. Mana is the energy of magic. It cannot be detected, seen, or measured by any kind of machine. Only living creatures can do so. It is an energy which emotions can affect. That the state of mind of someone can actually affect it with your emotions and such. That magicians manipulate it in order to cast spells and to summon spirits from the aether. Adepts and other awakened creatures can also manipulate mana to their various needs. Now there are two attributes when I'm talking about magic. There's the actual magic score itself and force. Magic is the attribute of the awakened creature, and force is the attribute of an item, spell, or a creature of pure mana, such as a spirit. Now, like other stats, magic starts at 1 and can go up to 6. An awakened creature can raise their magic above 6 through a process called initiation. It's a special, long-term process that starting characters will not have, but you as a character that has awakened and using magic might want to do in order to increase your magical power. Now magic is intrinsically linked to essence. As your essence drops, or even drops by a fraction for every point it drops, or by every fraction it drops, you lose 1 permanent magic from your maximum and your current. So if my essence would drop to 5, or my essence would drop to 5.5, both would be equivalent. I would lose 1 from my permanent magic, so now my magic top maximum would go from 6 to 5, and if my current was 4, it would go from 4 to 3, because I lost that essence. If magic should drop to 0, you become burned out. You no longer can use magic. You lose that ability. You can still actually have the knowledge of all the spells and information you learned, but you can no longer use it to use magic. Your active skill would become a knowledge skill. Now, force, on the other hand, has a similar thing that it can have that ability from being 1 to 6 that represents the potency of that spirit or the power of the item or spell you're using, represented in much the same way that magic was. Now, magic is linked to 2 skill groups, the sorcery skill group and the conjuration skill group. Each has 3 skills to them. The sorcery skill group has spellcasting. Spellcasting, I would roll my spellcasting plus magic. I would see how many successes I would have for casting a spell. Certain spells, depending on how many successes you get, depends on how potent the spell it is. Other spells have a requirement of X number of successes in order to cast it in the first place. And of course, you can have things that would modify or enhance these spells. Ritual spell casting, the second skill, this one is revolved around, of course, ritual spellcasting, which is spellcasting where you are in an area for a long period of time casting a spell, but the advantage is you don't have to see what you're casting the spell on. So effectively, you can use ritual spellcasting to cast a spell on someone way over there, like across the country or in another city, because you're using it as a ritual and using it over a long period of time rather than having to be right next to them. There are still limitations to that I will discuss a little later. And the last one's counterspelling. Counterspelling, you can use it to counterspell either a spell that's being cast or one that is being sustained. And effectively, for every success you'd have at counterspelling, you would reduce the successes they had on their spellcasting. Now, the other skill group is, of course, conjuration, which comes in 3 types also. First is summoning. I would roll a summoning plus magic test against whatever force of the spirit I'm trying to summon is. So I would choose the force of the spirit. They would roll their force against my magic plus summoning, and for every success I have, I get 1 favor for them before the sun goes down. So I effectively get little services from them that I would use my ability to build up and then have them go off and do that. The next skill is banishing. Banishing is used to affect an enemy spirit and reduce the number of services they have on it. If it's reduced to 0, it goes away. I've banished it away. And the last skill is, of course, binding. Binding is similar to summoning in the first place, except I'm making a more permanent binding with a spirit, that I'm making services I get from this spirit that last a lot longer, that are more long-term, that I don't have to worry about them going away at the end of the night. When sun goes down, they would last until whenever I would use them. Now, regardless if you're using sorcery or you're using conjuration, you have to worry about drain. Drain is the physical or mental strain upon your character for manipulating large amounts of mana. Drawing in all that energy into you causes this strain, and it is up to you to resist its kind of effects upon you. Each time you use an ability, it has a drain value. The drain value is sort of like the damage value you'd have of an attack. Now, the drain value depends on if you're casting a spell, for example, the spell will tell you what kind of drain value it has. If you're conjuring a spirit, every success it had when it rolled at force to resist being summoned by you, double that, and that's the value you have to resist for that test, for drain from summoning a spirit. Now, when you resist drain, you use your willpower plus another mental ability score which depends upon your tradition. There are a number of traditions. There are really only 2 traditions in this book, but there are other books that have a number of other traditions that will tell you what ability scores are linked to that. Effectively, it says that you would have, let's say, intelligence plus your willpower if you're a hermetic mage, and you'd roll that to resist it, similar to resisting damage, except I'm resisting the drain value, and for every success I'd have, I'd reduce the drain value. And whatever's left over, I would take in stun damage. There are exceptional times which I can take physical damage from drain, but I will talk about those later. But for now, just think any unresisted drain value is going to be stun your character is going to take. So that's it for today. I went over the basic concepts of magic. I talked about the 2 attributes for magic, the actual magic score itself, and force, and I talked about some of this. I talked about the skills used in magic, sorcery and conjuration, skill groups, and everything associated with them, and I mentioned drain, which is a very important thing to know about. In the next episode, of course, I'll continue talking about magic and dive more into depths of it. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I've left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Shows your support for the channel, the Empire, and the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.